This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Wednesday, the 23rd of July, 2025. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on the program, we'll talk with Kenan Layden of agmarket.net to see how the market's closed. But right now, we're going to kick things off by going to the Hagie plant where I toured it yesterday up in Clarion, Iowa. And we got to see the first 26 sprayer that came off the line on the STS models. We talked with Kevin Marshall. He's the go-to-market manager for Hagie to learn more. We're talking with Kevin Marshall right now here at the Hagie plant, and thanks so much for taking the time to host this event and talk with us here today.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a really good event. I'm excited to hear the questions that have been asked today. Those are probably some of the things that we don't always think about or get a highlight either way. So it's been a good day.
All right, and you're standing right behind right now one of the first 26 model Hagies to roll off the line. In fact, you said this morning the paint might still be a little wet.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about what is coming in 26 from the Hagie line, first of all.
So probably the big shining star for model year 26 is See & Spray Premium, broadly open on the STS 16 and the STS 20. So that is John Deere See & Spray technology. Processors and cameras mounted across a 120-foot boom that identifies the weed and then applies to those weeds up to 12 to 15 miles an hour actually coming up. So really new technology. The other features that are coming out, crab steer, which Hagie has been well known for a long time for all-wheel steer. So crab steer now allows situations where maybe the customer wants to shift the machine sideways and back without creating that sway or S feature around the outside. So we can actually steer all four wheels one direction around an obstacle and then back. And then side hill assist, which is a manual feature in our control handle where we can actually walk the rear of the machine up or down a side hill to help maintain us in that row or help us maintain that straight line. Those are pretty much the three features that are key. Obviously, there's a laundry list of other things that are happening in 26, but those are the ones that we're most excited about. I almost forgot about Boom Track. So Boom Track is boom height control, Boom Track Pro 2 from John Deere. We've implemented that into all Hagie booms in model year 26 as well.
All right, so folks, maybe a lot of folks are used to the John Deere application systems and the John Deere sprayers. What makes Hagie different and what also makes it integrated the same as the John Deere systems that they're used to?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, we've talked a lot about that today. The key things that make Hagie different is the boom is in the front. Again, we talked about it's just a preference. Some folks like to have the boom in the front for visibility, seeing what's happening out in the field. Could be odd-shaped field sizes, could be going around a lot of waterways. They just like having that visibility of the boom in the front. Other key feature of a Hagie is 73 inches or high clearance application. So we have that high clearance application for those late season applications in corn, fungicide, insecticide, things like that. And then right now, all-wheel steer. So the ability of having one track. So there's a couple things to all-wheel steer. When you're making that turn in crop, there's just the one track making that turn and running down crop. The other is just maneuverability. So being able to make that turn a little quicker and tighten that turn radius up. That's unique to Hagie. The same things are everything you know of John Deere Tech. So whatever that is, whether it's the G5 displays or the 7500 receivers, the enhancements to Op Center and tracking data, all that happens in the John Deere application portfolio, which Hagie is just a part of.
So it's like you were talking earlier, when you go through and you plant the crops and you've got those planter markers, that Hagie was going to pick it right up right away and know where everything was.
Yep, that is one of the things that have really come up in the last couple of years. John Deere's technology called AutoPath is recording exactly where that planter is traveling. And then that data is transferred into the Op Center, and then that data is coming back into the machine. So the machine exactly knows where to drive to stay off those rows. And that has made it so those postseason applications are a lot simpler. We can make less tracks to those.
One of the things I know you mentioned too is you guys are designing these machines to adapt to what the farmers are doing, and that's changing as we see genetics change and we see practices change and budgets change.
Right. I think one of the things we have to do is we have to build very flexible machines. So whether that is high rates of application, extremely low rates of application. Maybe it's a spot spray application. So we have to do really, really good at making sure that the machines are built to be versatile. One of the things, like when we look at our boom design, this boom was designed and come out in model year 23. We put a lot of thought into the next 5 to 10 years of what this boom is going to have to carry for weight, whether it be larger solution lines, whether it be see and spray cameras, whether it be processors, so that we can look farther ahead to know what's coming, and then make sure our machines are versatile enough that the customers, if their practice changes, and we heard it today that customers will change their practice from year to year to year depending on what they see, right? And then new practices are out there as well as new products. So we want to make sure that our machines can adapt to that very quickly without having any issues. So
You also talk about the cabs and the technology there to make sure that the operator is safe, because you're talking chemicals that are very dangerous. It's not open air tractors like we used to have,
right,
where you knew the sprayer, like you said, the sprayer nozzle was clogged because it wasn't blowing in your face anymore.
Right. So there's two things. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we think about when it comes to operator safety. Obviously, one is air quality and keeping the product off of them. So one thing in model year 26 that I also didn't mention is we moved hand wash. Like on this machine right here, there's a hand wash station down here by the load station. We actually have a hand wash station up by the cab. So even as I'm getting into the cab, I have one last to wash my hands and get them dried off before I get into the cab. So I'm taking any chance of bringing any of that chemical with us. Once I'm in the cab, now we have a pre-air filtration system that's powered, that's filtering the air before it's blown into the HVAC system, and that is constantly running whenever the machine is running. That keeps and makes sure that all that product or that chemical stays out of the cab. That's on top of and beyond just a standard cab filtration system. That's an added feature that we put into it. The other thing we talk about is when spraying those fungicides and insecticides, Hagie gives you the option to turn off the boom section that's directly in front of the machine, and turn on the section that's right after the machine. So we cannot make that application so the chemical's not getting on the windshield and around the ham areas and where you walk, and we'll spray that after we pass through the crop. So lots of focus on safety, not only for the operators, but anybody that's working on or around the machine. So.
All right. And finally, just to ask, with the system that you've got set up, the cab is the same as the combine, so it's seamlessly, transitional. But also, what are you seeing the farmers starting to use these for more? I mean, we talked a little bit about the trends with herbicide and fungicide and stuff like that. Are you seeing more side dress and stuff like that, or the applications are swinging anyway?
Probably, in my mind, not a lot of data to back it up, but just in the traveling and that I see, split applying nitrogen. Okay. Notice I just said split applying, maybe not late season, but I see a lot of farmers adapting to, let's break up my nitrogen application. It might just be another broadcast application. It might be a broadcast application right after it's up. But I do see breaking up that nitrogen application into multiple passes, including late season. Fungicide and insecticide is still a pretty growing market. I mean, there's still a lot of customers that are looking at it, some that are trying it for the first time. In some areas, the airplane and the drone works better. In some areas, the ground works better. I don't think we've got to the one right answer yet, but we have a lot of customers that are seeing. At Hagie, if I go back a little ways, being a late season, high clearance manufacturer, we would always say that we're not telling you what to do, we're just telling you to do something. So keep protecting and feeding your crop later on into the season, because your yield benefits will show up. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. We're going to give you the options to do multiple things late in the season. So.
Okay. All right. If folks want to learn more about Hagie and the work they're doing, and also the model year 26, where do they find that?
Well, there's two ways to go find it. Number one, Hagie.com is the website that's designated to Hagie. But number two, and probably the most choice, visit your John Deere dealer. Your John Deere dealer, johndeere.com. Hagie is in the product information, just as all the rest of the portfolio for John Deere is. So that's the best place to go.
All right. Well, Kevin Marshall's been our guest. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And that again was Kevin Marshall, the go-to-market manager for Hagie. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we'll run through the closing markets. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Back on Ag Matters PM, and it's time to run down the closing numbers with Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. Kenan, what did we see in those grains today?
Yeah, disappointing day in the grain, especially in the wheat, which, saw some good price action yesterday. Some of that being that, the Russian wheat crop was revised slightly down by some analysts. And then spring wheat tour is going on in North Dakota, where I'm from, and the yield on that spring wheat tour came in pretty high yesterday, about 50 bushels per acre. Day two is today, so it wasn't any good news for that wheat market today. And corn was down slightly, and soybeans, were up most of the day. Some of that could have been that trade deal news coming in that, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, some of those Asian countries are in talks, and no details yet, but some trade deals sound like they are in the works. But give it back later today. Weather forecasts are still good, and not enough news to change the tide there.
Now, one thing we've been looking at is the fact that the trade deadline is coming up next Friday to get trade deals done. And there is talk that we could be seeing some pushback, or China and the U.S. might delay that deadline a little longer.
Yeah. I mean, as most of your listeners know, the tariff extensions, deadlines, whatever news there is with them is a constantly flowing thing. We've been talking about them since March and April. The market did take notice earlier this year, but now people talk about the taco trade, and markets seem to not take a lot of notice. That Chinese one that you referenced, it sounds like latest I've read that Trump might have been invited to a summit with the Chinese, that they're working on things, but I'm not holding my breath to see when they get a trade deal done and what will be in that trade deal. It would be awesome if they did, and that included egg products, but that one seems to be, a lot of political posturing in those talks, and something that, could be extended all the way to November from what I've read.
Okay, and then switching gears over the livestock side of things, Kenan, what did we see in those cattle and hog markets today?
Yeah, almost opposite the grains, especially in the cattle, making new highs today in some of those contracts for feeder and live cattle. A lot of that probably still being driven by cash. There is a discount in that live cattle board to where some of the, live values were or have been traded. Feeders are following along for the ride. Cattle on feed report is on Friday, and that is seen to be slightly bullish with the numbers there. But low supplies, fundamentals have been supporting that market. Hogs, today, yesterday, we're under pressure besides that front month. Front month did close higher today, closing with that lean hog index. Closed towards where that's trading at. Some of the deferred months were down. Trade news and trade talks with those Asian countries should be good for hogs. Maybe some demand there for the U.S. Exports are really important to that hog market, but the market didn't really respond today. But again, no details are known in those trade deals.
All right, Kenan. Well, if folks want to talk to agmarket.net, get some ideas of what they should be thinking about, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, check us on the web at agmarket.net. Check out some of our market information. If interested, look for a broker in your area.
All right, Kenan's been our guest here today. Kenan, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Dustin.
That again was Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
September corn down 3/4 of a cent at 3.98 1/2. Soybeans down 4 1/2 at 10.05 3/4. Soybean meal down $1.80 at 2.72 even. Soybean oil 51 cents higher at 56.14. Chicago wheat down 9 cents at 5.40 1/2. Kansas winter wheat down 9 3/4 at 5.23 1/2. Kansas spring wheat down 8 cents at 5.52 even. Minneapolis spring wheat down 3 3/4 at 5.88 even. Oats unchanged at 3.52 1/4. Live cattle were 205 higher at 227.02. Feeders up 325 at 331.52. Lean hogs 72 cents higher at 108.47. Pork cutouts up 62 cents at 112.05. And Class 3 milk down 45 cents at 17.12.
And that's been a check of our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Follow us on Facebook, X, and our YouTube channel. Don't forget about the free market podcasts sent 3 times a day through our podcast channels, as well as replays of the Iowa Ag Matters program, Weekend Ag Matters, and much more. You can find that where you get your favorite podcasts, including Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, Riley Smith, and Ashton Jolly, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.